The chamber of the Galactic Council was a colossus of marble-like stone and glowing crystalline panels, a monument to civilizations that had not known true war for centuries. Species from 50 star systems gathered within, their forms diverse, some scaled, some feathered, some encased in exoskeletons polished like metal. At the center, elevated above the tiers of alien delegates, the speaker unfurled his wings and called the session to order. His voice, deep and resonant, carried across the vaulted hall. Today we address the matter of Soul 3, the humans. A new species has broken through the veil of isolation. They beg entry into the galaxy's fold. But the question remains, are they a danger? A murmur rippled through the tiers, translated instantly into hundreds of dialects. The Dravians hissed with amusement, their serpent-like bodies coiling around their seats. They are children with toys, their representative sneered. Kinetic shells, chemical propellants, explosives barely worthy of mention. Imagine, in this age of antimatter and singularity warheads, a species that still clings to metal slugs launched down barrels. Laughter rang out, chittering, guttural, and shrill. General Kale of the Veiled Dominion did not laugh. His silhouette was jagged, armored plates rising like serrated ridges along his back, eyes glowing faintly amber. Where others saw comedy, Kale saw potential threat. He leaned forward, addressing the council with deliberate weight. Mock them if you wish, but humans are not to be dismissed. They have fought more wars in their short history than most of our species combined. Their entire cultural evolution has been forged in violence. That should give us pause. Across the chamber, the Arachne delegate, her body suspended by long, chitinous legs, clacked her mandibles in derision. You overstate them, Kale. They are primitives trapped in iron and fire. Their weapons consume resources inefficiently. Their armor is heavy, their aircraft laughably slow. Against even a single battle unit of ours, they would crumble within minutes. Her mandibles clicked again in amusement. It would be cruel to even test them. Kale's gaze swept the assembly. And yet, it is always the predator you dismiss that sinks fangs into your throat. They have advanced to the stars through ingenuity alone, without shared knowledge, without council technology. Every stride forward has been won in blood. He tapped a claw against the table. An image projected into the air, grainy surveillance from the edge of Sol System. It showed a human armored vehicle, snow drifting around its massive treads, its barrel belching fire. Infantry ran alongside, rifles raised, breath steaming in the cold. The footage was visceral in a way alien eyes found crude, even offensive. The chamber erupted in mocking chatter. Toys, primitive rituals, a rolling coffin. The insults piled one upon the other, but Kale remained still, his amber eyes fixed on the flickering hologram. He could not shake the sight of the humans' faces, grim, unyielding, as though carrying some truth deeper than technology. From a shadowed corner, a younger delegate spoke hesitantly. Toller, a scholar of the SYLTH, whose species prided themselves on observation rather than conquest, raised a trembling hand. If I may, the humans' reliance on ballistics may appear primitive, but it may also render them unpredictable. Shields are optimized against energy-based weapons. A physical projectile behaves differently. What if? Enough. The speaker's wings snapped open, silencing him. We waste time entertaining paranoia. Humanity's request for recognition will be denied. Instead, we dispatch a demonstration fleet. They will be taught the order of things, as countless species before them. The chamber applauded, though not unanimously. Kale's claws dug into the stone table, leaving faint scars. After the session, as delegates drifted away in laughter and gossip, Kale lingered. His adjutant, a young officer named Varric, approached. General, the council has spoken. Why persist in worry? You've seen their weapons. Bullets, tanks, bombs. They are relics from our own prehistory. Kale turned, his armor plates shifting with the movement. And yet relics that still kill. Do you not find it strange that they have never abandoned them? That they refine, perfect, and cling to these weapons even after discovering the atom? even after reaching the stars, is not ignorance. It is choice. His voice lowered. That should terrify you. Varric hesitated, then nodded, though unease lingered in his eyes. Kale dismissed him with a wave, but the thought gnawed at him. Choice. He recalled the human faces in the projection, scarred, determined, not awed by war, but molded by it. A predator species, through and through. Meanwhile, in the outer system, the fleet was already mobilizing. Dozens of ships gleamed with polished armor and humming shields, banners of the Council fluttering in holographic display. The mission was framed as a show of superiority, not war. The commanders spoke of it as theater, a lesson for primitives to bow before greater powers. Crews laughed as they studied files of human armaments. They fire projectiles? Let them try. Our shields will laugh. Our armor will shrug. The arrogance was intoxicating. Yet among the laughter, unease spread in whispers. Engineers noted how dense human metals were, how devastating their artillery appeared in atmosphere. Medics remarked on their physiology, how they endured trauma that would kill other species instantly. Some voices, quiet but persistent, echoed Kale's warning. Humans were not to be measured by technology alone. But those voices drowned beneath the tide of arrogance. On Earth, far from the Council's crystal halls, snow fell in heavy curtains over endless forests. Soldiers marched in formation, boots crunching against frozen ground. Their breath steamed in the air, their rifles slung with practiced ease. A tank rumbled behind them, its steel plating scabbed with frost, its cannon angled forward. The commander, Captain Elias Ward, surveyed the white expanse with steady eyes. They're coming, he told his men, and they think we're weak. His tone carried neither fear nor bravado, only certainty. Around him, soldiers adjusted their grips on weapons that had been mocked as primitive. But every man and woman in that line knew their worth. They were not toys. They were tools honed for the oldest trait of their species, survival through destruction. In orbit, alien ships pierced the sky, radiant with energy shields and humming weapons. Their commanders smiled at the ease of their task. Below, Captain Ward gave a single order. Engines roared to life, treads churned snow, rifles clicked, and a line of predators readied themselves. The mockery of the galaxy had come to an end. The alien fleet descended like a curtain of fire across the frozen wilderness. Their ships blazed with radiant shields, casting eerie halos of light that rippled against the gray sky. Snow flurries twisted violently in their wake, turning the forest into a blur of white and shadow. From the lead cruiser, General Arachne Keth prepared her forces, confident the engagement would end swiftly. Her long limbs clicked against the metallic floor as she surveyed the holographic projections of human positions. To her, they resembled scattered insects clinging to outdated shells of war. Crush them, she ordered, her mandibles spread in a predatory grin. Let the primitives understand the order of the galaxy. On the ground, Captain Elias Ward studied the growing brilliance in the heavens with an expression stripped of awe. He had seen the intelligence briefings, read the intercepted boasts of alien commanders who laughed at bullets and bombs. Let them laugh. His hand tightened around the cold steel of his rifle as he turned to his men. They crouched in snowbanks and trenches carved into the earth, weapons steady, breath visible in ragged clouds. A tank idled behind him, its turret angled skyward, waiting. The sound was familiar, grounding like the steady beat of a heart. Ward's voice cut through the hush of snowfall. Remember this. They think our weapons are relics. Prove them wrong. The first alien wave landed with thunder, transport ships slamming into the snow with seismic force. Their ramps dropped, and ranks of armored soldiers advanced, energy rifles humming with menace. They moved in perfect precision, their shields shimmering like translucent veils against the storm. To them, this was spectacle. To humans, it was survival. Ward raised his fist, then dropped it. The forest erupted. Artillery hidden in the tree line thundered, shells screaming through the air before slamming into the advancing aliens. Explosions ripped open the snow, tossing armored figures skyward like ragdolls. The alien shields flared brilliant blue, then shattered under the sheer kinetic violence. Where energy blasts might be absorbed and dispersed, solid steel tore through with merciless inevitability. A railgun emplacement fired from the ridge, its rounds spearing through an alien walker and igniting it from within. Flames spilled across the snow, black smoke coiling into the pale sky. For the first time in centuries, the Council's armies knew the sound of panic. Ward surged forward, his men with him. Rifles cracked, every round punching through armor designed for plasma dispersal, but useless against dense alloys moving at supersonic speed. An alien soldier staggered, eyes wide in disbelief as the primitive bullet tore through its chest, then fell into the snow, lifeless. Others scrambled, their perfect formations collapsing under the sudden chaos. Humans did not fight as the Council expected. They fought dirty. They fought with cunning. They fought with an intimacy the galaxy had forgotten. An alien commander bellowed for a countercharge, ordering mechs forward. Towering machines stomped into the snow, plasma cannons swiveling to track the human lines. For a heartbeat, their power was undeniable. Beams of searing energy tore trenches apart, incinerating men in bursts of light. Ward's teeth clenched as screams echoed, but he did not falter. "Tanks advance," he barked. The steel giants roared, treads churning snow as their cannons thundered. Shells detonated against mech armor, piercing with concussive force. One toppled, its legs sheared away by a direct hit. Another collapsed as a rocket screamed from the forest edge, slamming into its chest and tearing it open. The battlefield was a cacophony of thunder, fire, and steel, a storm of brutality the aliens had never known. From her vantage aboard the flagship, Arachne Keth's mandibles tightened in disbelief. Reports flooded in, shields breached, units overrun, mechs destroyed. The word repeated in every transmission: Kinetic. She slammed a clawed hand against the console. Her amusement burned away, replaced by raw fury. Adapt. Close ranks. Press them. But even as she shouted, another report cut through. Her soldiers were breaking. Fear spread faster than orders. They had expected a pageant of dominance, not annihilation. Ward charged through the smoke, his rifle barking in steady rhythm. A round clipped an alien's shoulder, spinning it into the snow. He pressed forward, his squad covering his flanks, every movement precise. He had drilled them for this. Not against plasma, not against shields, but against overwhelming odds. Humanity had always fought uphill. They were forged in the crucible of losing, of clawing victory from the teeth of inevitability. He ducked behind a burned-out transport, signaling his men onward. His eyes burned with resolve. "We bleed them here," he said, voice ragged. "We show them what it means to fight us." A young private beside him, face smeared with soot and fear, glanced upward where alien ships still hovered. "Sir, what if more come?" Ward met the private's gaze, his own steady as stone. "Then we kill more, until they understand." The snow became a graveyard. Alien bodies lay scattered, their once shining armor cracked and stained. Fires burned where mechs had fallen, their husks smoldering in the frost. The air stank of smoke and blood. Human losses were heavy, but the line held. The line always held. And as alien troops faltered, retreating in confusion, Ward felt the shift. The tide was theirs. In orbit, Arachne Keth's rage boiled into disbelief. Never had her armies suffered such humiliation. Primitive weapons had torn through technology that was supposed to render them untouchable. The Council's arrogance had not only blinded them, it had doomed them. She stared at the casualty reports flashing across her console, each number a dagger in her pride. She spat a hiss through clenched mandibles. This is not possible. But even as she said it, she knew it was. The humans had proven it. On the ground, silence slowly replaced the thunder of battle. Snow drifted down again, soft and almost serene, blanketing the wreckage of fire and metal. Ward lowered his rifle, his breath heavy in the freezing air. Around him, his men regrouped, wounded tended, ammunition counted. Victory was theirs, but he knew better than to call it complete. This was only the first clash. The council would return, angrier, stronger, more desperate. He looked at the smoldering horizon and felt no triumph, only certainty. Humanity had been tested, and they had not broken. The galaxy would learn what Kale had tried to warn them. Humanity's so-called primitive weapons were not relics. They were the sharpened fangs of a predator that had just tasted blood. Ward turned to his squad, his voice cutting through the exhausted quiet. This was just their opening move. Next time, they'll bring everything. And so will we. His men straightened, weariness tempered by fire. They had faced the impossible and lived. The next battle would come soon, and they would be ready. The forest around them whispered with falling snow, as if holding its breath for the storm yet to come. General Arachne Keth had not slept since the battle in the frozen wilderness. Her mandibles worked furiously as she stalked across the command deck of her flagship, the air heavy with the bitter tang of failure. Every report replayed the same humiliation. Shields shattered, mechs toppled, disciplined ranks torn apart by weapons the galaxy had abandoned millennia ago. The council demanded explanations, demanded blood, but none of their words cut deeper than her own realization. She had underestimated the humans, and now the galaxy bled for it. She turned on her officers, her voice a serrated hiss. They will adapt no further. They will not. I will see these creatures extinguished before they become a plague. Yet even as she spoke, doubt slithered beneath her fury. The humans had adapted in ways her forces had never imagined. Could she stop them before it was too late? On Earth, Captain Elias Ward had buried too many men in the snow. The cost of the first battle was written across every survivor's face. Grief, exhaustion, but also something far more dangerous. Resolve. He stood among them in the makeshift command post, a scarred tent lit by flickering lamps. Maps were spread across a frozen table, lines marked in red and black. Around him, his officers argued over supplies, ammunition, and defensive positions, but Ward's eyes stayed fixed on the larger truth. The aliens would not retreat forever. They would return, stronger, angrier, and desperate to reclaim their pride. He could not allow humanity to be caught flat-footed. We have to be faster than them, he said finally, silencing the tent. Every day they study us. Every day we change. If they expect rifles, we give them artillery. If they expect tanks, we hit them with drones. If they expect trenches, we bleed them in the cities. They adapt slowly. We adapt instantly. That is how we win. The words carried through his officers like fire through dry brush. Humanity had always been a species of improvisation, of turning desperation into innovation. From stone blades to railguns, from bows to orbital drones, the pattern was clear. Survival through adaptation. Ward leaned closer to the map, his voice a low growl. We fight them on every front, and we make them fear the very ground they walk on. The next wave of the war came quickly. Alien fleets surged across the solar system, determined to prove their superiority. Cities were bombarded, skies torn open with fire. But unlike other species crushed beneath the Council's heel, humanity refused to break. Tanks rolled from factories in endless columns. Artillery thundered across continents, and swarms of drones darkened the skies. Every battlefield became a crucible, every loss a lesson. Where one weapon failed, another rose sharper. Where one tactic faltered, another replaced it within hours. Ward's soldiers became masters of misdirection, luring alien forces into ambushes, striking at supply lines, turning terrain into a weapon. On a shattered plain in Eastern Europe, Arachne deployed her newest weapons. Bioengineered shock troops designed to overwhelm human defenses with claws and strength far beyond flesh and bone. They dropped from the sky in shrieking hordes, tearing into armored vehicles and scattering infantry. For a moment, it seemed victory was within her grasp. Then the ground erupted. Mines detonated in sequence. Artillery shells rained from concealed batteries, and disciplined rifle fire cut the monsters down with relentless precision. Where plasma might have failed, steel and lead tore through even engineered flesh. The field became a slaughterhouse, and Arachne watched in disbelief as her most terrifying soldiers fell like any others. Ward strode among the wreckage after the smoke cleared, his boots crunching over alien corpses. He paused beside one of the fallen creatures, studying its grotesque form. "They think power wins wars," he muttered to his lieutenant, a hard-eyed woman named Grant. "But wars are won by will, and our will is endless." Grant said nothing, but her nod was enough. They both knew the truth. Humanity was no longer merely defending Earth. They were shaping themselves into the galaxy's executioners. The Council reeled from one defeat after another. Reports of human victories spread like wildfire, shattering centuries of complacency. Worlds that had once scoffed at Earth now whispered to the humans with dread. Kale, the veiled general who had warned them, stood in the council chambers once more, his amber eyes burning with vindication. "You mocked their weapons," he growled. "Now you face extinction by them. You thought them relics, yet those relics are hammers striking at your throats." His words were drowned by arguments, denials, and desperate plans, but no one could erase the truth. Humanity had become the predator at the center of the galaxy's fear. Still, Arachne refused to yield. She launched campaign after campaign, throwing fleets and armies into the human maw. Each time she adapted, heavier shields, faster mechs, deadlier weapons, and each time the humans shifted faster. They turned their tanks into mobile fortresses, their drones into swarms that tore through the sky like locusts, their artillery into storms that shattered alien formations before they could even advance. It was not simply technology that drove them, but ingenuity, discipline, and a ruthless refusal to die. Ward became a symbol to his men, his presence a rallying point in the chaos. He fought at the front, his rifle never idle, his eyes always searching for the next way to twist the enemy's expectations. He slept little, ate less, but his resolve never wavered. Soldiers whispered his name with reverence, not because he was invincible, but because he endured alongside them, carrying the same weight, the same scars. In him, they saw the embodiment of humanity's will, a leader who would not stop until the last alien threat was crushed. The war spread beyond Earth. Human fleets, once laughably small, grew with terrifying speed. They captured alien vessels, studied them, then re-engineered them with brutal efficiency. Where the Council took decades to approve a single design, humans turned wreckage into weapons within weeks. Soon, their ships prowled the edges of alien space, striking at convoys, ambushing patrols, sowing terror in places the Council had thought untouchable. Arachne watched this escalation with growing horror. Every plan, every adaptation, fell to the same truth. Humanity was faster, hungrier, and utterly unafraid of blood. She stared at the latest battle report, her claws trembling. For the first time in her long life, she understood fear, not of death, but of irrelevance. The galaxy she knew was ending, and the humans were writing its final chapter in steel and fire. On the ground after another battle, Ward stood amidst the ruins of a conquered alien fortress. His men were bloodied, battered, but alive. He looked at the sky, where human ships now burned with captured alien engines, and let the weight of it settle on him. "We're not just surviving anymore," he said quietly to Grant. "We're changing the galaxy." His words were not boastful, but a promise. Humanity had tasted victory, and it would not be sated until the threat of the Council was erased forever. The wind howled through the shattered walls, carrying with it the stench of smoke and death. Ward closed his eyes for a moment, allowing himself the briefest silence. Then he opened them again, steel-hard and unflinching. The war was far from over. The enemy still stood, and until they fell, there would be no rest. The final offensive began under a sky torn apart by fire. Human fleets stretched across the void, their hulls scarred but unyielding, their weapons bristling with the scavenged bones of alien technology reforged into something brutal and efficient. Every ship carried the weight of vengeance. Every soldier the memory of Earth's near destruction. At the heart of it stood Captain Elias Ward, now promoted to commander, his face weathered by months of relentless war. He stood on the bridge of a captured alien dreadnought, its sleek corridors stripped of ornament and re-engineered for human use. Before him, the galaxy's last great fortress glowed against the dark, a citadel world of the Council, ringed with fleets, proud even in desperation. Ward's voice was calm, iron beneath the words. This ends tonight. Across the command networks of the fortress, General Arachne Keth issued her final orders. Her mandibles quivered, not with fear, but with the terrible clarity of one who sees the end written ahead. She had spent her life believing in the superiority of her kind, in the eternal dominance of the Council's way. Yet every battle had eroded that certainty. Now, as she looked upon the endless swarm of human ships, her claws tightened on the rail. If we fall, she rasped to her officers, we fall with fire. She had no illusions left. The war was lost, but pride demanded resistance until the last breath. The fleets collided with a fury the galaxy had never witnessed. Alien plasma fire streaked through the void, incandescent rivers of destruction. Human cannons answered with railgun slugs and missile swarms. The silence of space broken by the thunder of weapons designed not for elegance, but for finality. Alien shields, once a source of smug assurance, shattered under the pounding hail of kinetic fire. Dreadnoughts cracked in half, their glowing cores torn apart by missiles launched from swarms of jury-rigged fighters. For every human ship lost, 2 more surged into the breach. The tide was inevitable. Ward moved like stone amid the chaos, his commands precise, his resolve unshaken. Every casualty weighed on him, every flare of dying ships etched into his soul, yet he pressed onward. He knew hesitation would mean survival for the enemy, and survival meant they would return. The Council had mocked humanity, had scorned their weapons and their will. Now, there could be no half measures. Only extinction would prevent the cycle from beginning again. His officers exchanged grim looks, but carried out his orders. None questioned the necessity. They had all seen what the Council had done to weaker species. They would not allow Earth to become another cautionary tale in alien archives. On the planet below, the war turned savage. Human forces landed in waves, tanks grinding across alien soil, artillery blasting fortresses apart. Drones swarmed through cities, cutting down defenders in alleys and plazas. Alien civilians fled into the ruins, their voices raised in panic, their illusions of invincibility shattered forever. Ward's soldiers moved with cold precision, their faces grim but unyielding. They had suffered too much to show mercy now. The Council had unleashed this war. Humanity would finish it. Arachne led her remaining troops into the streets, her once proud armies reduced to scattered bands of survivors. Plasma cannons shrieked, claws tore through steel, but every effort was answered by a storm of bullets, shells, and fire. She fought with desperation, her mandibles dripping with fury as she cut down men with her own claws. Yet even in the heart of battle, she knew the truth. For every human who fell, another rose, and another still. Their resilience was endless, their will unbreakable. Her warriors faltered, their courage drowned beneath the relentless tide. She roared above the din, but her voice was swallowed by the thunder of tanks rolling over shattered streets. Ward stepped onto the alien capital's central square, his boots crunching over debris and corpses. Smoke choked the air, flames licked at broken spires. His rifle hung at his side, but his eyes were sharp, unyielding. Grant moved at his shoulder, her face streaked with soot and blood. Around them, human banners were raised where alien insignias once stood. Soldiers cheered, but their voices carried more exhaustion than triumph. Ward did not raise his arms, did not bask in victory. He looked at the alien city burning and felt only the weight of inevitability. "It's done," Grant murmured, though her tone betrayed no joy. "They can't come back from this." Ward's reply was cold, final. "They won't." High above, the last of the Council fleet disintegrated under the barrage of human guns. Arachne's flagship was torn apart, its hull splitting in a blossom of fire and silence. She remained at her station until the end, mandibles clenched, eyes burning with a hatred that would never find release. Her last sight was of human ships cutting through the void like predators unleashed. Then there was nothing but darkness. When the smoke cleared, when the fires began to die, the galaxy was changed forever. The Council's armies were gone, their leaders slain, their cities toppled. Entire civilizations, once masters of the stars, were left in ruins. Humanity stood ascendant, scarred but unbroken. They had been mocked as primitives, derided as relics, dismissed as children with toys. Now they were feared as extinction made flesh. Ward walked among the ruins, his men saluting as he passed, their eyes haunted by what they had wrought. He paused at the steps of the alien palace, its grand doors shattered, its halls desecrated. In that silence, he whispered words that were carried only by the wind. "You should have left us alone." In the months that followed, the galaxy reeled. Species that had once bowed to the Council now bent knee to humanity, not out of loyalty, but out of fear. Human fleets patrolled systems once untouchable, their presence a reminder of what resistance would bring. The weapons mocked as obsolete became symbols of terror. Railguns, tanks, rifles, artillery. Words once synonymous with antiquity became synonymous with annihilation. The lesson was seared into history. Nothing was more dangerous than the weapons humanity had never abandoned. Ward remained at the forefront, but victory did not bring him peace. His men looked to him as a hero, yet he felt only the burden of what they had done. He had not fought for conquest, but for survival, and survival had demanded extinction. He stood alone one night on the balcony of the captured palace, the alien city smoldering below, and let the cold wind wash over him. Grant found him there, her steps quiet. "We won," she said softly, almost as if she needed to remind him. Ward shook his head, his voice low. "No, we ended them. That's different." He did not smile, nor did he weep. He simply turned back to the horizon, where the stars stretched endless and waiting. The galaxy whispered of humanity with fear and awe, their names etched into the annals of history not as conquerors, but as executioners. And in the silence of space, where no laughter of mockery remained, only one truth endured. The weapons the galaxy had scorned were the weapons that had remade it.